Hello everyone. We have a special guest today, an author and English teacher, Mr. Rowland Nelken. We are happy to meet you on behalf of the Key West University. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here.
Thank you for coming. And Rowland, can you please tell us more about your book, how the story starts, what was the idea to write a book?
The idea was, it was inspired by a book I read by Cohn, who is, he died a few years ago. He was a professor, and he wrote a book about the connection between the sort of ideas that I'd been brought up with my family.
So, as I said, Key West University students were really interested, and they were really amused to know that we will meet you. And
right.
yeah, they prepare very interesting and I would like to say very different questions. So
right.
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, Mr. Rowland, how long does it take you to write a book?
Right. Paradise Delayed took, I think, 3 years. It was my first full book, and the musical that I wrote and performed in Edinburgh at the Fringe Festival in 2019, that took only 2 years.
2 years.
But having said that, some of the material about Judge Rutherford, whose biography I spoke and sang about, I was in fact performing as Judge Rutherford, the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses. I had already studied a lot of his writings and written about him in Paradise Delayed.
Okay.
Yeah. But there are no songs in Paradise Delayed, and the musical obviously had songs in
exactly.
tunes as well as words.
Okay, I see. Thank you. Let's try another question. Okay.
Long one.
The long one.
Yeah.
Do you want each book to stand on its own, or are you trying to build a body of work with connections between each book?
Right. There is certainly a connection between the musical about Jehovah's First Witness and Paradise Delayed, and some of the poems I write are also on similar themes. But no, I'm not tied, I'm not narrowly obsessed with this one theme. Yeah. As far as poetry goes, I find I can only operate once I've got a clear format, you know, a sonnet or a, you know, I need to have a strict system and format of rhyme, rhythm, etc. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay. Does writing energize or exhaust you?
Well, far more energizing than exhausting, yes. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Do you try more to be original or to deliver to readers what they want?
Well, I must admit I haven't done much market research in that respect, so knowing what readers want, I don't know.
When did you first realize you want to be a writer, or when did you first realize that you want to write a book?
It was not all that long ago, probably about 15 years ago, having read Norman Cohn's work, Cosmos, Chaos and the World to Come. He was a brilliant writer.
Okay. And would you advise to read this book to someone who is maybe thinking about to start writing? Do you find that it could motivate them as well?
It could indeed, yes. Yes, we were all motivated by a whole range of different sources, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Does a big ego helps or hurts writers?
A big ego.
Ego, yes.
Well, I suppose, yeah. You must think that what you've got to say, or rather write, other people is worth other people spending their money to buy it and their time reading it. So yes, there is a certain egotism related to writing, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. If you could tell your younger writing self anything, what would it be?
What would it be? Develop critical thinking skills much earlier than you in fact did. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
And remember also this business of originality nearly always comes from copying others, at least to start.
You mean your own originality comes from copying ours?
Copying others to start with.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, a great American songwriter, his first, his name has slipped my mind for a moment. His first creations were almost reproductions of England's Gilbert and Sullivan. But he, being American, he gradually got to know jazz, and thereafter he became one of the most successful songwriters in the 20th century. Likewise, the Beatles. They started off purely doing covers of Chuck Berry and American R&B stuff, and that is what gave them the foundations to tell their own stories in song. Yeah.
Okay, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
And very good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. What is your writing process like?
Writing process, yeah. Well, I can remember, whenever I write a poem, I first decide on the format, whether it's a Shakespearean sonnet or what we call in England, I don't know, an Onegin style sonnet, which has a slightly different rhyming scheme. And then I scribble a whole load of random ideas on one bit of paper. And then from that, I've got a clear order on one sheet of paper or in one part of my mind, the Shakespearean or whatever sonnet or Petrarchan, and the other a mass of ideas. And then I try and transfer the mass of scribbles into the tight format, with the aid, I must admit, of a thesaurus.
What is the most difficult part of your artistic process?
The most difficult part? Recognizing that, that's okay, but it needs improvement. And therefore, lots of hours, several more hours work, several maybe in research, etc., and alteration. And also sometimes, listening to the views of other people and having to scrub several paragraphs that took me ages to write. That's the point. They don't actually contribute much. For all the hard work that went into it, I'll have to bin them.
Okay. There was a second question. What are the ethics of writing about historical figures?
The ethics?
Yeah, the ethics.
I think we always have to bear in mind that historical figures lived in a different moral climate. There is a tendency in America and in Britain, I don't know about in Russia, to judge historical people by the 21st century values. Yeah. And that can be very hypocritical.
So the next question from our student is, okay, I think that it is more related to you as an English teacher.
Right.
Yeah, what are the advantages of learning English as a second language?
English as a second language, well, for reasons none of which I can take any credit for, English has become a global language for, for business, for science, and several other things. There's all sorts of historical reasons, partly the British Empire, the power of the United States, the influence of Hollywood and popular music. All these things have made English something of a global language, and of course, yes, it is, I think, yes, the lingua franca, the most widely spoken, even though I think in terms of native speakers, I think we're third after Chinese and Spanish as far as a second language goes, and as an international lingua franca, English is the key to communicating with a huge, probably the biggest share of the global population. Yeah.
Good point. Does being a teacher help you writing a book?
Oh yes, yes. Meeting other people and hearing about their backgrounds. Yes, it certainly does.
Certainly.
Yeah. The two work together. They are complementary.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a good question, and what is one tradition from your university that you admired or enjoyed?
One tradition?
Yeah, tradition.
Well, the tradition that I admired, I enjoyed, yes, it wasn't so much a university, but Sandhurst. Where,
Sandhurst, okay.
Yes, army officers are trained. I did enjoy the ceremonial passing out parades.
Okay,
yes,
parades.
Yes. Getting dressed up and marching in time to music. Yes, I did enjoy that. Yeah.
Okay. As a writer, what would you choose as your mascot? Avatar, sprint, or animal?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Probably a serpent from the Garden of Eden. Yeah.
Okay.
I've never thought of that before,
Okay.
but I've never been asked that question before, but I think that would be appropriate. Yeah.
Okay, good. What does literary success look like to you?
Literary success. Well, to me, I think it is very positive. When I see, well, it's mainly little Russian girls rather than boys, thrilled with their Russian translations of Harry Potter.
Okay.
Literary success means, they absolutely love those stories and they can't wait to read the next one. Yeah, you have spread a lot of happiness around. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Good question. What is your favorite childhood book?
Childhood book was Tarka the Otter by Henry Williamson. Yeah, and that calls to mind the point I made about the difference between ideas and people. Yes, and also the good parts of a person's life and the ridiculous or horrible, because I was enchanted by Tarka the otter, and Henry Williamson was great at writing animal stories, not only for children, and he was also a very good as a farmer. Today we'd say an organic farmer, but on the negative side, he was a great admirer of Adolf Hitler, which is quite, trying to...
All those contrasts.
Yes. Trying to put the two Henry Williamsons together is rather peculiar. Yeah.
I see. How do books get published?
How do books get published? Well, mine was published by, and that, thank you very much, the Russian nation. We English, that's one of the reasons I think why our language has spread. We're quite happy to receive words from all over the world, and samizdat is now a regular English word. Yeah. So that is how Paradise Delayed was published. Yeah.
Some details, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Again, one of the great advantages of the internet age, self-publishing electronically is now perfectly possible, and it's cheap as well. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, to know. How does your family support your career as a writer?
Well, now I'm no longer married. I do have grandchildren, but that they're not my immediate responsibility.
Okay.
So, yeah, and in fact, I only took up writing seriously after separation and divorce. So yes, it's been independent of family. Yeah.
I see. Okay. What was one of the most surprising things you learned in creating your books?
Well, the most surprising was that the three creeds which surrounded my childhood, which I thought were utterly disparate, having no connection at all, did in fact have the same origin. And that there are no doubt several more. This idea that, well, for example, the phrase "Make America Great Again," which was Trump's electioneering slogan, suggests there was some golden age, and nearly all golden ages are somewhat fictional. People tend to remember just one or two good things when there were lots and lots of jobs in American car factories or whatever, even though conditions may have been, the hours may have been longer, the atmosphere may have been less healthy, etc. There is this tendency, and there was an article in the Wall Street Journal explaining just why, even though as the years go by we get wealthier, most people anyway, obviously get better fed, the world becomes more peaceful, there are fewer air crashes, fewer car crashes. On the whole, nearly all these objective measures, a vaccine for COVID took only a year or so to develop.
Yeah, that's true.
And by about 100 different countries, and whereas, and the structure of the COVID. The structure of COVID was discovered in a fortnight, whereas for AIDS it took nearly 2 years. So many things objectively are improving, and yet we still have this tendency to think of some good old days. no doubt during the Soviet period it was the good old days of the Tsars. Maybe today some people think of the good old Soviet days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the most important magazines for writers to subscribe to?
Right. The only magazine I subscribe to is The Spectator, and that has some interesting literary reviews as well as lots of political commentary. But also, yes, these days, of course, with the internet, so many magazine producers are struggling to get people to pay for stuff to read when there's masses and masses of free stuff all over the internet. Yeah.
I see.
There's also the Times Literary Supplement, which my son and daughter-in-law have, and when I'm round at their place, I tend to read as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How many unpublished and half-finished books do you have?
How many? Well, I've got lots and lots of poems which I've yet to publish and organise. Yeah. Yeah. Purely on the poetry side. Yeah.
There are some.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next question, I think, it's the deep one, and it has been prepared for someone who is thinking of, to start writing.
Yeah.
and he really needs your advice.
Yeah.
What's the most difficult thing about writing characters from the opposite sex?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, even those biographies in Paradise Delayed, I think they're all, now they're all men.
All men.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there is a strange idea that writers should only write about people like themselves, which would make writing novels or plays impossible. In Shakespeare was a man, and he was the son of a glove maker, a fairly prosperous glove maker, but he wrote about Roman emperors, he wrote about shepherdesses, and very effective, That is a very big, just like this insistence that gay characters should only be played by gay actors. Just as writers of novels and plays inevitably are going to write about. There may be some characters similar to themselves, but it's going to be pretty boring if it's all. Can you imagine a play where all the characters are glove makers' sons from Stratford-on-Avon?
Yes.
No, it just wouldn't work. Yeah.
I see.
And yes, and even commoners, untitled commoners, can play Henry V or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Very good point. Yeah. What do you enjoy most about teaching?
Well, it's great meeting a whole range of people, whether it's, and getting to understand all the different motivations for learning English. Some people I've met students who are planning to emigrate to America or study, or want their children to study at an English school. Others simply want to learn the language so that they can read English literature in the original language. Yes, it's great meeting people with so many different motivations for learning what is my native language.
I see. And whom do you prefer, not maybe prefer, but enjoy more to teach, more teen or adult students?
Well, I enjoy the variety.
The variety.
Yes, whether it's 5 and 6 year olds, or I have even met I think it's 2 students who were older than me. Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
And
yeah.
what was their motivation?
I think it was literary.
Literary?
Yes, yes, yes. They no longer had any career ambitions.
I see.
Yeah, which you don't at that age.
Yeah. My point. And what advice would you give to Key West University students that is planning to write a book?
Planning to write a book.
Yeah.
Do lots of reading.
Do lots of reading.
Yeah. Do lots of reading.
That's a good point of advice.
Yes.
Great pleasure, Rowland, to meet you, to host you here in Key West University. And what would you maybe advise to Key West University students, to motivate themselves for study, for degree programs?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, it's been very interesting.
We enjoy the meeting.
Yes. To focus on a future role. Yes.
Focus on a future role.
Yes. Even though the world may change, you may change, without thinking of a clear objective, it's difficult. Sometimes you might not have the incentive or the motivation to study. Yes.
Yeah, once again, it was a great pleasure to meet you, to ask those questions and to receive very interesting answers.
Right.
Yeah, just let me tell you that we are always glad to meet you next time.
Great.
Yeah, we're always happy,
Thank
and you are our honored guest. Yeah, thank you for the interview.
And thank you for inviting me.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers.